live. Oh, we're out of practice in this, but
I need to clear my throat as well.
and project. It's been so long. This is the first time we've seen each other since Bharat left me at the airport in Islamabad.
And almost got detained as well at the airport, but that's the story for another day. And yeah, Mel saw me walking in, and Richie Benaud's tugging at Mel Farrell's hair.
Can I just say, I just hit my head on Richie Benaud's hand, which he's got a really tough grip.
I don't know that's why the statue was built here or put in place.
Really?
I don't think that was Richie Benaud's role here.
I will.
It looks like her hand is actually stuck, so we will roll with the credits.
Roll the bumper.
He's being too nice to her.
Okay, we don't have a bumper. The bumper hasn't rolled.
Oh, really?
No. Okay, so look, we better get on with this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Ridiculous. Yes, we are back for a World Cup special. Sorry, we'll get center frame. Yeah, it's exciting to be back. I'm pumped. You're pumped?
Yep, but introduce me first.
Oh,
People
sorry.
may have forgotten who I am.
Everyone knows who you are. You're a global superstar, and I'm just a little schmuck sidekick.
Nah, not
That very rarely.
Yeah,
very
your
rarely.
Orange finest, as some wonderful colleagues of ours from India walk past us, and it is, it's a World Cup.
It's already started, by the way.
Yes, of course, it is a World Cup, and it's a first post-COVID World Cup of sorts, so a men's World Cup, I must say. And we have the whole world here. Honestly, I've been checking social media. Literally everyone I've ever covered cricket with anywhere in the world seems to have arrived in Melbourne or Brisbane or wherever they are. And it was only a matter of time before Mel and I met each other, and we did outside the gates of the SCG, where she kind of gate crashed a radio cross of mine, laughing hysterically towards the end, thankfully.
I just thought you were on the phone, and I ran up and went, and hugged him, and then discovered he was doing live radio. Sorry to whichever radio station that was.
That's all right. Nobody else was laughing. At least I heard I got someone else laughing on the other side. So it's good.
I'm excited. So let's get into some nominations. Let's get in there. Thank you for everyone who has sent them in, by the way.
Absolutely. Thank you as always. So the first one's from the Bureau of Cricket. Also Sam.
Is that like the Bureau of Meteorology?
Oh yeah. Tell us, Sam. Tell us what do you forecast at the Bureau of Cricket? At Bureau Cricket. Says good, the players from associate nations improving their game and getting stable income from cricket since they don't get much game time playing international fixtures, more particularly over the past few years. And, it's my turn to say this. Sorry, we are really rusty. I mean, yeah, I was fortunate to be in Hobart and to see not all the teams there were associate nations, and the West Indies were also there, Zimbabwe were also there. But just to see what it means to some of these players, right? Last night, those scenes of David Visa at the end of that Namibia-Netherlands game were scenes. That's the beauty of sport, right? And as Cole
we've been heckled by the Australian media manager. I'd like to lodge a protest.
Cole, like he does, has completely forced me to lose my thought. But no, what we were talking about is, I was there, Mel, and just to see the emotion last night, David Visa with Namibia, unfortunately not making it to the second round, and we will talk a lot more about that later on in the show. It just tells you that I know they're called associates, and we had this debate in Nova, what should they be called? I mean, none of those. The M word, it should be banned, and thankfully it is banned.
Oh my gosh! I know, but I keep seeing it on social media. In case you're talking, we're not talking about a former Indian great all-rounder whose name is sometimes associated with a certain type of dismissal. The other M word that we're talking about is minnow. Yeah. All M words should be banned, basically, from cricket. I will now be known as L. No M words, they cause trouble. It's disrespectful.
You always come across more as an L than a Mel to me. I know you spent a long time being Mel, but maybe the time has come to become an L.
Yeah, the minnow thing is rubbish. I don't know. Look, I don't think there's any problem in saying underdog, in that anybody can be an underdog in any game. Like you might see New Zealand could be underdogs against Australia, or like, you know, Australia out of form would go into a game against England as underdogs. I think that's fine, but the minnow thing has always just sounded really patronising.
Yeah.
Oh, let the little minnows have their little swim in the pond, but we won't let them into the ocean.
Yeah, and now they are into the ocean, whatever you want to call them. And back-to-back years, we've seen what Scotland have done, we've seen what Namibia have done. Unfortunate that Namibia couldn't, follow up on their performance against Sri Lanka, which was a thumping victory. But they've shown already what they can do if they're given consistent chances at this level. Similarly with Scotland, they look so professional against the West Indies, and they should have beaten Ireland, but for that one partnership, which again we'll discuss later on in the show. So yeah, consistent cricket, like Sam, Bureau of Cricket has said, that stable income that comes from cricket as well. A lot of these players aren't full-time professionals, are they? Not yet. Maybe in some of these countries, and I think that's what we're seeing. The more and more they get to play at World Cup level, and they've spent a lot of time playing against each other. It's only when you pit them up against the West Indies or even a Sri Lanka at that level do you find out whether their game is improving or not.
I mean, just remember, every team, apart from those who played the first few tests, every team has been shut out of cricket to start with at some level, and then been let in, and usually got thumped a bunch of times before they became better. That's the only way. It's like, how are you supposed to? You don't get in a car and drive it for the first time without ever having a lesson or someone to show you. Well, in your case, I'm not so sure. But that the more they play, the better they get. I had two. It's weird that you can feel two things at once, because I was so gutted, particularly for David Weiser, like everyone else. It was heartbreaking. But on the other hand, so happy for Netherlands, because I remember in 2016 when they were up in Dharamshala and they ended up missing out. There was rain in Dharamshala and that washed out their last game. They missed out. I remember we went up and spent some time with those players, and all they wanted to do was have the opportunity to play against Australia for the first time, or for England for the first time. So I'm so glad it's all changing in 2024, and we've been wanting this for a long time. Those of us who have been trying to, push the barrow a bit for associate cricket, we say the same things every time a World Cup comes around. This time, at least, we can say, well, it's actually going to happen next time, and I really hope that the Netherlands in particular do well in the next round. The next round, not the start of the World Cup. Some people seem to think it's just starting.
Yeah, no, and the first round was not the qualifiers either. Though I did have an argument with the king of associate cricket, Tim Bigmore, about it, but that's a story for another day. And just to finally, further your point, you're right. I mean, Scotland came into this World Cup having played two matches after the last World Cup, and still beat the West Indies in very professional manner. That kind of tells you where their cricket's at. But we will move on. Our old young friend Ahmed Afzal, who you remember, at Dakified from Karachi, who bought a poster for all of us.
Yeah, hi, thank you.
Sweetheart of a boy. Who, funnily enough, not a plug, maybe a plug. So my Dhoni book was included in the 35 most influential books published by Penguin in India. The 35 years they've been there.
Yes.
And some of those the other 35 include some of the greatest books ever written in India. This is not a plug for me, but this is a plug for him. And he tweeted saying he's read most of them. Honestly, I've read only one.
That was totally a story, just to mention your book.
Pretty much.
Anyway, get on with it.
But his nominations are, for good, the baby watching the six in the Namibia versus Netherlands game. So honestly, I did not watch the baby do this. So all over.
Oh, you did? Basically, you've never seen a baby in such awe, and one of the baby was like, it should be a meme. That should be the meme that takes over from the Pakistan fan, from the World Cup in England, Mr.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The baby should be the meme. You've never seen a baby just so mesmerized and fascinated watching a ball being tonked into the stadium. I did like that.
Yeah, but I also saw another baby do something not so good, unfortunately for the baby. Maybe a sign of questionable parenting or in Hobart.
Controversial.
I know I'm nobody to comment on parenting. I've never played that particular role in my life. But the baby I don't know whether you guys were watching that game. It was on the first day. The baby just came running, down the slope towards the fence and fell over onto the concrete. And honestly, I was really concerned because I think the mother came and picked the baby up and like took the baby, but it didn't look.
I shouldn't
look
laugh.
good,
No.
but yeah, but thankfully the baby is fine, and now
So that was
baby's day out.
that was good and bad. Baby.
Good
It's
and
all
bad,
about
yeah.
the babies.
It's all about the babies. The bad, we kind of touched upon this format of the tournament. Hopefully 2024 will change that.
Yes.
I think, yes,
Yes.
the format should change, but I actually enjoyed the fact that if you just separate this first round of games and just called it a tournament, it would be one of the closest or the most closely contested ICC tournament in a long time. Think about it.
Look, there's a good and the bad in it. Good and bad and ridiculous. Yeah, there is something about the desperation of this opening week that is quite amazing. And the games have been absolutely enthralling. They've been really super games. So there is something about that, yes, that's good. But look, I go back. If you go back and look at the games that were played in the 2015 50 over World Cup, when they actually did allow a big,
everyone else
they allowed everyone in.
It was a World Cup sort of.
It was actually a World Cup, and I think if you go back and look, the blowouts were generally involving two of the so-called, the test nation sides, if you like, and those are the closest games involved at least one associate nation. So. That I always look back at that and go, when people talk about just, one team will get smashed, but that happens anyway, and it's often involving the big teams.
I mean, we'll see how closely contested these games will be. But 2024 is good. You're right. There'll be 20 teams, different format, and I'm really looking forward to it. Also because it's in the US, and I've never covered a cricket in the US, so that'll be a lot of fun. And I'll be going back to the Caribbean, which, as you know, I love to do. Good nominations, Ahmed. Thanks for that. We move to Shinod BM at Shinod_BM, who says good pitches in the first round, and I think they've actually kind of set the trend for what I think will happen for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, there's what's been good, I think, is that there's been stuff in it for the bowlers, and the various dimensions as well, and the grounds. So they've had to really think about straight boundaries, square boundaries. That's brought a different dimension in. But the pitches themselves, that we're not going to have, I don't think, what we had in the UAE, and that's loads of dew suddenly coming in. So the toss has just become so important. In fact, we're seeing a lot of teams win the toss and then lose the game. Defending has been really interesting, watching teams defend, particularly in that game against Namibia. So lots of teams like to chase, but it's been just interesting watching that. They seem to have stayed a bit true. There seems to have been a bit of swing around, and that's also exciting, and a little bit of movement, and that's kept the bowlers in it, I think, quite well. We were talking in the press conference and stuff as well about bowling those hard lengths, and test match length seems to be a bit of a trend. Some feel that is just because the pitches are the way they are. So very, very different to the UAE. And I love the fact that it does feel like there is a bit in it for the bowlers. We haven't seen like crazy just high scores. Even when batters have been on top, other times bowlers had. So I love that. It's felt like a kind of a true contest, if you like.
Oh, very much so. Like, and going back to what you said, 7 out of the 10 games have been won by teams defending. It's already so different to all the other T20 World Cups we've seen since maybe 2010, which was 12 years ago. So I think that's a good trend. Like, last year it got a little too predictable with dew and just where T20 cricket is, where team totals could be chased down. So I think we're looking at a very exciting, entertaining World Cup, which could be very different to the ones we've seen. Jason Holder was the one who spoke about how test lengths could be the way to go with the new ball, so that you can knock a few wickets over, and then you keep your variety for the end. And I think Mel. There's some fantastic bowling attacks, seam attacks around the world in this World Cup. You look at South Africa, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand, India without Bumrah, yes, but still it's a pretty decent attack. West Indies, if they do get out of that.
You're basically going to mention every team.
Got to 6, so there are only 6 more to go.
You left out England. He thinks England. Why do you hate England? He thinks England's bowling attack's crap.
He doesn't hate England, but yeah. No, I think, so exciting pitches in the first one. Hopefully that continues. Also, early season pitches. We've never had an ICC men's tournament this time of the year in Australia. That just adds to the intrigue around it. So moving on to Wanamali, who is at Ash.
You don't have to say, you can just say their name.
I can just say
Let's say their name.
The hand. Okay. at Vanamali_VJ. Oh, God, I've become so Australian that I just went VJ. Alright, I've spent too much time here. Vijay.
Do you want me to read?
No, that's alright. At Vanamali_Vijay, not VJ.
Just get it on with it.
Sorry. I had to correct myself there. Bad. Associate nations losing wickets in crucial situations, says lack of experience.
So what you tend to see happen when players come into cricket, so you see this in the women's as well, and you see it with associate nations who have come through or affiliates who come through to associates. The skill that tends to be good first is fielding. So say look at Thailand women. That's a great example, right? And then the next skill that comes along is often bowling. And you think of Afghanistan, the way they developed in their bowling. Batting is usually the last skill, I think. I think that's pretty fair, don't you? That's usually the last piece of the puzzle, I think, that comes together for teams. So I don't know if it's just lack of experience. I just think that teams tend to be better at fielding and bowling before they become really good at batting, if that makes sense. I think there's a bit of that.
And then there's that other really difficult skill to master, which is the skill of winning. It is.
Yeah,
right. Finishing games off, like getting into good positions. You start to do that when you start playing together a lot. And it happens at every level. But then, can you get yourself over the line? Do you have players to do that? Can you do it as a collective? I think that's the skill that you learn only when you play at a certain level more and more and more often. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, I honestly, in that Scotland-West Indies game at one point thought, yeah, they've got this far, but because West Indies have that firepower, Jason Holder, Odeon Smith will get them home. But it was really incredible how the Scottish seamers kept their nerve after the spinners had brought them into the side to see them home. I think we're seeing more and more of that. Namibia versus Sri Lanka, another example of that. So I think those are really good signs. Ridiculous associate nations will be competing with heavyweights to lose badly in the Super 12 leg. You took umbrage to this, Mel, so over to you.
I'm just saying, let's just bookmark that. Let's just bookmark that comment and we'll see. Might happen, might not. But look, at the end of the day, how would you feel if you were invited to a really lovely posh dinner party, right? And then you got to the house, you got into the foyer, you maybe got a little like amuse-bouche or something, and then you're standing there and everyone else gets invited into the dinner and you have to go home.
That sounds like everybody I've been to, but yeah.
That's because you never dress to the right dress code.
That is very true. So unless someone can lend me shoes, I'm always kicked out after they offer the entree to me. But we'll see. Especially in these conditions, I think these teams who are coming through round one have a much better opportunity to not just shock these teams, but give them a run for their money. Moving on to Bikram Maji at Bikram Maji 31. I did that again. Good. UAE won their first ever match in the T20 World Cup. Bad. UAE spoiled the party of Namibia.
Yeah, well, that goes back to that thing of how you can feel so happy and so sad at one time in this when you really want to see these various nations go well. It's like it is a brilliant thing, undoubtedly, for UAE to win, because that's then another step. And great for their development. Interesting too when you think of the new T20 competition that's going to be held in the UAE, where obviously they don't have to field many homegrown players, but there will be some. And they will, I'm sure, get invaluable experience from that tournament. Everyone's going fast. Everyone wants to be part of our show.
No, and I'm also worried that that's the guy I asked to watch my back. So,
right.
Thanks, Andrew Menzel.
God. But yeah, so Namibia, I mean, that we know that they've got the talent as well, and what they did last year at the T20 World Cup. So it is sad. It's just that thing of being torn. And I know I'm just too soft. I want everyone to get through. I'm too soft for this. I had a message from someone after I tweeted about being gutted for Namibia, and they were like, they sent me a DM saying, toughen up. They played like crap. And I was like, oh, okay.
Basically, you just want long-haired men to win in the end. That's what it's all about. David Visa, Boris Willis, and all the same. True. But yeah, I mean, but credit to UAE. I think the 19th and 20th overs were spectacular.
Amazing.
David Visa had really taken the game away with Trumpelman for company. And I thought those last two overs, told you that the UAE team often, under pressure, they have cracked. historically in World Cup. But to hold their nerve the way they did, and don't forget they almost pulled it back against the Netherlands in the first game, right? Netherlands just about got over the line. So who knows if that game had gone their way, maybe it was UAE would have qualified and moved on. So it came down to really those few deliveries in the end against the Netherlands.
And it's funny actually watching this week a few times in games. You know, so often in T20 cricket when there's a collapse or something, the game just goes. But we've actually seen these periods of fight backs that have just been quite interesting for me, that you get that more, because you often see that happen in T20 cricket, right? Shorter the game, less time you've got to rebuild or something. But yeah, they've been really interesting.
And in one of the greatest segues in Good, Bad, Ridiculous history, Mel just spoke about comebacks, and just the color of the graphic there leads us to our next nomination, which is Bikram's ridiculous one for Curtis Campher, match winning 72 runs from 32 balls. Those are the Irish colours. There you go. You can see it right there. Sorry, I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen like an idiot, but I mean, that was quite an honor.
He's going to do it. There's always a Curtis Campher every World Cup,
You should just call it the Curtis Campher round.
The Curtis Campher round. There's going to be one.
There should be one. I mean, even though the next World Cup, the format changes, we should just have maybe a Curtis Campher versus David Visa single wicket partnership.
Let's just announce a Curtis Campher Day.
Yeah.
In the next World Cup now.
Where he just does something really.
We announce it ahead of time. Everyone wears green. We proclaim it Curtis Campher Day and wait for him to do something absolutely ridiculous like that.
And he will do it. You know that. Because he walked into bat at a time when the Irish had completely lost control of the game. They lost their top order. It was all about Paul Sterling that game. Under pressure, their future in the tournament up for stakes. Like, last time they won the first game and they lost the next two games. Andy Balbirnie had said after the first game here that maybe we can do a reversal. We'll soon find out. They are playing the West Indies as we speak. And then it came from nowhere. I mean, George Dockrell has been built up as this great finisher outside, or the best finisher going around outside the main leagues that we see around the world. And the focus was on him, but Curtis Campher came and just took the game away. It was a sensational hitting. The Scots did not know what had hit them, and in the first ever Celtic battle, it was Curtis Campher who came up top. I just wanted to say
Celtic, the Celtic Curtis Campher.
Yeah, I know, the Kilts versus
you
the
did have a little iteration.
That is true. There you go.
Crazily... I can't think of another C word.
No C words on this show.
Worse than the M word.
Oh, much worse than the M word. Kanv Gupta at Kanv Gupta 26 says, good, associate cricket rises and came into limelight. We kind of touched upon it. You're absolutely right.
It's a good combination.
And people want to see more of Namibia now. I'm sure there are people around the world who don't want to wait till 2024 to watch Namibia and David Visa and Trumpelman do what they do. Or for that matter, even the UAE. When you see teams improving
and it's fun to see different players. We're so used to seeing all the other players all the time, and that's great. But it's actually fun to see different players and have new cult heroes, and
Curtis Campher.
Curtis Campher.
Yeah. Bad, poor advertisement of the World Cup, depressing empty stands.
Okay, so just a little qualifier on that. I think it is important to mention. I can't get too low, or that covers me. Especially in Geelong. Thanks, Rati. Especially in Geelong. There is really bad flooding in the eastern states. So Hobart has had a lot of it as well. Weather's been dreadful in all of Victoria. Geelong is in regional Victoria. So I don't know what the advertising was like down there, but I think there are a lot of people with a bit more on their mind than the T20 World Cup right now. So I can sort of have a little bit of sympathy with that, because it's just not ideal. Hopefully it won't be affecting the games that are in major cities over the next few weeks.
And also culturally, right? We're just getting, and this is something I've learned after living here, we're just about getting out of football season around Australia. It's been
not cricket season yet.
Not at all.
It's not cricket season.
The newspapers are more or less still filled with trades and the drafts and all of that. Even though the grand finals are finished, both in the NRL and the AFL, basketball's kicked off as well. So I think it's only as this tournament picks up that cricket will start making the front pages. It did make the front page in Hobart, though, which is very good to see.
Excellent.
For day one of those games. But you'll see things improving. And also, in defense of my beloved Tasmanians, I love Tasmanians, as you know, Mel. The first day, the last Monday when they had the first round of matches, It was bitterly cold. It was terrible weather. There was a lot of rain in the air, and it was the first day of school. So there were a lot of reasons that went into not a lot of people going.
Yeah.
Culturally on top of things, do I say?
Oh,
that?
you sound so on top of things.
Yeah, exactly. And I also called.
Now that you're a resident.
There
We
you
need
go.
to keep going quick.
Sorry, Keshav Hariya, Keshav with a U, says good Mayappan hat-trick against Sri Lanka, bad West Indies in general, ridiculous 109 meter 6 by UAE tail-ender against Chamira. Curtis Campher we just spoke about. So a bunch of us were in Hobart, went to this bar. Literally, we walked in 5 minutes before this Mayappan hat-trick, and right there, sitting on the table right behind us was Curtis Campher. And the hat-trick happened just literally 2 minutes after he left. It was almost like it was surreal almost. And we were really, Daniel Norcross and I were really hoping that Mayappan does a Curtis Campher. It would have been such a moment, But Campher had left the building before the hat-trick happened. But yeah, what a hat-trick ball as well. A young kid from Chennai moves to the UAE, and to do what he did, it was special.
I thought it was brilliant. I was like, I was screaming. Like literally, I was jumping up and down. And my mum was excited as well. And as you may know, if you follow me on Twitter, my mum does get a bit excited and a bit funny with her comments, but she enjoyed that too, and that's the main thing. I loved it.
I think we're gonna we'll come back to your nominations, but because you just brought up your mum, we're going to add success failure rate, who has the nomination about her mother. Good updates about Mel's mum and Patrick Matheson. So we'll start with your mum.
Well, I think that one of the best things about this first week, the best things about this first week has been the fact that Sikandar Raza said that he was a fan of my mum. Big fan of my mum, he said. So he's obviously read my tweets. I mean, she's pretty hilarious. And the worst thing is that she can't, I came across it the other day. She has like a speech impediment that she can't say Sri Lanka properly. So it comes out as Sri Lanka. And then I said, no, mum, it rhymes with three, Sri Lanka. And so she's then there going, she really struggles just to get it out. And she was also saying Namibia. She couldn't get them. So I came across it the other day. She's sitting there going, Sri Lanka, Namibia. So she's trying very hard. She did also, poor Sikandar, she did call him Zara. When he got out the other night, she went, not Zara, he's that good one.
No wonder he loved that. No, look, I've been very fortunate enough to meet Mel's mother.
Sorry about that noise.
No, that's all right. And she is the loveliest person I've met, and also thinks that I'm sponsoring this World Cup. So maybe she's seen something. She knows something that I don't. Yeah. So now we'll go back to Keshav, just finish here. West Indies in general, look, I just checked the scores while Mel was talking about her mother, and they've started pretty poorly again with the bat. They are, I think, 36 for 2 in their 6th over, and that's been a problem for them. The bowling's been really, really good. I mean, the bowling really got them home against Zimbabwe. The batting has been poor. They were poor against Scotland. They were pretty poor against Zimbabwe.
Unprofessional, according to the coach.
Unprofessional. He said it
Don't
3 times.
That very often.
I know, 3 times, Mel. And then it was to my question, man. My follow-up was, so why do you think they've been unprofessional? And he said, well, we haven't discussed this. I'm waiting for them to calm down. But more importantly, for myself to calm down. So Phil Simmons was seething that day.
He looks seething.
Behind that smile. And the final one, ridiculous, the 6 from the UAE tail ender. That was, I think for now, maybe one of the moments of the World Cup. Not just the 6, the 6 and his celebration, and
It should have been 12.
It should have
been 12. If ever a 6 deserved to be a 12, that was a 6 that deserved to be a 12.
And I've seen bowlers celebrate wickets, but you hear about bowlers enjoying the batting. But there was, I don't know whether it was a bet with one of his teammates or what it was, but he really enjoyed not just hitting a 6, but how far it went. It was just a great moment, and again, that's the beauty of watching some of these teams we don't see often play. They enjoy their cricket so much. I think it's to the next level. So that kind of brings us to the end of our nominations. So I think
so did is that the nominations done?
Yeah, all done. We've cleared them beautifully.
Okay, now let's see if this works. I don't know if it's going to work with Rutty's back there. I'm going to see if it works. Okay, we've heard all the nominations. It's time for the goodest thing of the week so far.
All right. Good used to be the fairies.
I don't know if that worked or not.
It did not appear. Hopefully it appeared. If it not, sorry about my angel wings. I think the goodest thing of the week has just been the cricket we've seen. It's been, I know you were expecting me to say our reunion, but of course it is. Again, that goes without saying. I didn't have to mention it. It's just seeing all these teams produce some spectacular cricket, because going in, we didn't know what to expect from T20 cricket in Australia and also from these teams. Some of the matches in the first round last year were slightly disappointing, but this time you had some, some narrow finishes, some brilliant games, and some lot of good cricket, bowling, batting, and yeah, I think that for me is just the best part of the season.
Nice. I absolutely feel that. Feel the good vibes from that one. All right, everyone, it is time for the baddest thing of the first week.
Hi!
I think it's just cut the sound. Maybe it's going.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Go on. What is it?
There hasn't been too many things which have been bad. If the West Indies get knocked out today, I think for me they have been pretty poor. I mean, it is a newer team. They just have 4 members from the squad that they had last time. 3 World Cup winners. And you just, with the West Indies, you expect them to be, because we're so used to seeing pretty much the same team play over and over again in the World Cups. It is a fresh team, but more than anything, the fact is that you don't know which West Indies team to compare this one when it comes to putting it into context, right? Like, so do you call them poor based on how they're playing right now? Is it fair to compare them to the teams that won those World Cups? Because the team that played pretty poorly last year was the one that won the 2 World Cups. So it's yeah.
When you say that, I think they're better than what they've shown here.
Oh, for sure, the batting,
with the batting, so I think this is poor from them as a team.
The batting for sure. The bowling, I mean, you feel for the bowlers.
Jason Holder's like one of the most underrated T20 bowlers
exactly,
in the world.
And you could see it in his face the other day.
He's so angry. It wasn't happy celebration. It was like angry. Yeah.
So, well, I think that's been the baddest thing of the day, about a week. Let's move on to the ridiculous.
Oh, okay. There's time for the ridiculous thing. I think it's gone. I think it's gone. Tap for sound. Tap for sound. Tap for sound. What's the ridiculous thing of the week?
Yeah. I think we are spoiled for ridiculous things of the week. I mean, I saw a few things in Zimbabwe. We spoke about the babies. We spoke about the 6. We spoke about how ridiculous.
There's been a ridiculous Raza innings as well.
With the way he was batting, yeah.
I mean, hat trick is pretty good in the first
hat
week.
trick as well, quite a bit. I think, though, I have mentioned this in some other shows. For me, still the most ridiculous thing of the day is walking across and meeting those Zimbabwean fans who were just cheering their lungs out for the Zimbabwean team. And 15 minutes into the conversation, finding out that 80% of them had never seen a game of cricket and they had no idea what was happening. This lovely guy, Leslie, who was so happy because he met a couple of his friends who he went to school with 25 years ago in Harare. And 10 minutes into our chat, he looks at me and says, I have to ask you, are we doing well in this game? And at this point, Ireland had lost 6 wickets and had plenty to chase. So I had to convince him that they were. And then he asked me, so we need to take 4 more wickets. Yeah, so I think ridiculously cute thing of the week.
That's a good place to end it. Oh, hey, by the way, before we go, just in case you haven't had enough of the magic that is here, we're going to have a podcast. I know if you've been calling it, we are joining Jared Kimber's empire of 99.94 FM. Ever-growing empire. So we're going to be doing an Australian podcast a couple of times a week, 3 times a week probably. We're going to start next Wednesday, I think. So keep an eye out from that. And we hope to get you on that as well. And thank you to everyone. I can't see if the messages have been coming up, to be honest. I've got, there's some messages there, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Have I stuffed everything up? I don't know. But we really appreciate all of the stuff that you've sent to us, the nominations.
Sun's beating down.
Sun's beating down.
Richie Bennett needs a break.
Richie's giving me a head scratch. But actually, that feels quite good. Oh yeah.
Before this show becomes creepier, I think we should call it a day. Thank you for joining us, and join us again next week. Listen to our podcast, and please do not see what you're seeing right now.
That's good. Right.
Don't try this at home.
No, it's good. Thanks, Richie.